Welcome to my very first Stranger Things episode review video. Before I get into that, though, pretty important, if you aren't caught up to the point where I am at rewatching or watching Stranger Things, or you're just not entirely sure, then you definitely need to take the initiative and pay attention to the episode's title, which of course I'll mention, as well as put in the description. If that happens to be the case, if you find that you're not caught up, it would be my recommendation that you don't watch this detailed review any further to avoid any potential spoilers. And full disclosure, I've already seen Stranger Things all the way through until we get new episodes. It's definitely one of my favorite TV shows of all time. I would say top 20 for sure. It's very possible that it's in the top 10. I'm rewatching the show to let it resonate, and rewatching the show will help me determine where it's placed. Obviously, we have a new season of Stranger Things coming out, the final season of Stranger Things, which I'm hearing will come out in November. Again, that's not confirmed. That's just what I'm hearing. So I hope to be done and caught up by then with my rewatch of the show. But it's definitely an awesome show with a very awesome theme, and I absolutely love it. So let's discuss this awesome and amazing show in the comment section. So with all that said, this will be Stranger Things, Season 1, Episode 1. The title of this episode is called The Vanishing of Will Byers. And this will be my review reaction recap after just finishing watching the episode. So we start on November 6th. Of 1983 in Hawkins, Indiana. A scientist flees down a hallway in the Hawkins National Laboratory from an unseen force. This person gets in an elevator only to realize that the force is actually inside the elevator with him and hanging on the ceiling. He is killed as the doors close. Then we have middle schoolers Mike, Dustin, Lucas, and Will playing Dungeons and Dragons in Mike's basement. Mike was so good early on in the show. Their party is fighting a powerful creature known as the Demogorgon. Will, the party's cleric, is pressured by Dustin and Lucas to choose between a safer, protective spell or an offensive but yet more dangerous fireball. And Will chooses a fireball but knocks the dice off the table in his excitement. Mike's mother, Karen, interrupts, telling Mike that it is time for his friends to go home since it is a school night. Dustin tries to offer the boys leftover pizza to Mike's older sister, Nancy, who ignores him. She just shuts the door in his face. He comments to the group that she used to be cooler until she started hanging or dating that douchebag, Steve Harrington. Steve Harrington, how he improves. The others, except Mike, agree. Before they leave, Will tells Mike that he rolled a 7 and the Demogorgon got him. And then the lights in Mike's garage flicker as his friends leave. Riding in the dark past the laboratory, the light on Will Byers' bike briefly flickers out. When it comes back on, a tall, shadowy figure appears before him. So Will swerves off the road and crashes his bike in the woods. He then runs home as the figure pursues him. He finds his house empty. Will dials 911, but only to hear garbled static on the phone. He sees a dark shadow moving on his front porch. His locked front door seemingly opens by itself from the inside, causing Will to flee to a backyard shed. He grabs a rifle inside and loads it, aiming it at the door as the lights above him flicker. The figure rises up behind him and Will turns to face it, the lights brightening before going back to normal. Both Will and the figure are now gone, and they're in the upside-down world. But that hasn't got that far yet. Police Chief Hopper awakens in his trailer as he showers. A newscast reports power outages across the country. Hopper smokes, pops a pill, and drinks some beer. What a role model. And then dresses before leaving for work. Meanwhile, Will's mother, Joyce, played by Winona Ryder, and his older brother, Jonathan, who I can't stand, realize that he did not come home last night. Joyce calls Karen Wheeler, Mike's mom, to ask if Will stayed the night, but Karen confirms Will left a little after 8 p.m. that night. Arriving at Hawkins Middle School, the other three boys, also wonder where Will is, but are interrupted by bullies Troy and James. At Hawkins High, Nancy's best friend, Barb, asks about whether or not she and Steve are dating, which Nancy denies. She finds a note in her locker from Steve asking to meet her in the bathroom, to which Barb smiles. Nancy and Steve make out in the bathroom, and they make plans to meet to study that night. Joyce goes to the police station and begs Hopper to find Will. Hopper is very concerned, or Hopper is not very concerned, since 99% of the time a missing child will be with a parent or a relative. Hopper's first instinct is to contact Joyce's ex-husband Lonnie, despite Joyce's insistence that he is not involved. Then we have a group of suited men led by Martin Brenner enter the Hawkins lab, dressed in hazmat suits and descending into the lab's basement, where the air is now filled with strange flecks and the walls are covered in black marks. They see a large hole in the wall, infested with gray substance that seems to breathe. One of the men asks Brenner if the hole is where it came from, and asks about the girl. Brenner says that she could not have gone far. And then we have a young girl in a hospital gown with a shaved head wanders barefoot through the woods, coming across a diner called Benny's Burgers. She enters the back of the restaurant. Owner Benny Hammond catches her stealing food. At school, the boys approach the science teacher, Scott Clark, and learn that a powerful radio for their AV club has been delivered. Before they can use it, they are all called to the office to talk to Hopper and his deputy, Callahan. The boys describe Will's route home and states that he goes down Mirkwood, the Hobbit-based nickname they gave the road that Will uses to go home. When they offer to help look for Will, Hopper adamantly refuses, ordering them to stay home as Joyce and Jonathan search for Will around his fort in the woods, Castle Byers. She remembers visiting him there to surprise him with tickets to Poltergeist. What a cool mom. Benny makes burgers for the girl and tries to talk to her, but she remains silent. And then he notices a tattoo that reads 11 on her left forearm, and she seems to identify it as her name by pointing to herself. Assuming she is an abuse victim, Benny calls social services. While he does, the girl stops an irritating, noisy fan just by looking at it. Hopper, Callahan, and Deputy Powell search Mirkwood and find Will's abandoned bike. At the Hawkins lab, several workers listen to various calls, nearby phone calls, one of them being Joyce desperately trying to call Lonnie and being stopped by his girlfriend, Cynthia. Hopper approaches the Byers' house with Will's bike and starts looking through the house. He notices the Byers' dog barking at the shed, which he investigates. The lights in the shed go out until Hopper is interrupted by Callahan. Hopper tells him they need to organize a search party. Mike begs his mother to let him search for Will, and Nancy asks to go and meet Barb to study. Karen vetoes both requests. As Nancy and Mike argue, she reveals to their parents that she is dating Steve. He reveals, Mike does. This causes Nancy to storm off, believing he is the only one in the family that cares about Will. Mike also angrily leaves the table. Karen chastises her husband, Ted, for his lack of help in dealing with their two older children. Clark and Hopper discuss Will's why participating in the search party, and Hopper mentions that he has a daughter who lives with her mother. A bystander informs Clark that Hopper's daughter actually died several years ago. Mike calls Lucas on his supercom. Mike tells Lucas that Will chose to put himself in danger during the game by casting a fireball instead of playing it safe by choosing the protection spell. Understanding what Mike is saying, Lucas says they should meet in 10 minutes. Mike sneaks out on his bike, seeing Steve trying to climb through Nancy's window. They have an awkward moment before Mike shrugs it off and rides off. Hammond gets 11 to smile before social services representatives knock on the door. The woman at the door, Connie Fraser, identifies herself as being from social services, but then shoots and kills Hammond. 11 runs out the back door, but meets two armed guards there. Dr. Brenner, entering the front of the restaurant, hears a commotion at the back entrance. Brenner finds the two armed agents who tried to stop 11 are dead, and that 11 has fled out the back of the restaurant. Dustin, Mike, and Lucas go into the woods looking for Will. Steve tries to seduce Nancy while he helps her study, but ultimately ends up helping her work. As it starts to storm, Joyce and Jonathan go through family photos so they can choose a picture to put on a missing poster. Jonathan, having worked late the previous night, admits he blames himself for Will's disappearance. Joyce tells him it isn't his fault. The phone rings and Joyce answers it. At first, she hears breathing that she identifies as Will's before hearing animalistic growling. The phone shocks her and with a light electric current. And then we have the three boys are in the woods, like I said, searching for Will. And Dustin tries to convince the others that they should go back due to the storm. And since they are going to the place where Will disappeared, but they have no weapons, they hear a rustling sound near them and turn to see 11. And that's what ends the very first episode of Stranger Things. So, okay episode. I'll score the episode an 8.0 out of 10. And then every episode I do like a standout character of the episode. For this one, just meeting the cast and just watching everything, I think Mike is the standout character in this episode. Now, Mike is a really good character early on, and I feel like once the actor gets older, he becomes less interesting as a character. Just my opinion, but that's what I think. He becomes bland and boring as an actor. But hey, you never know. Maybe I just have a weird opinion. So you've heard everything that I have to say. Now it's your turn. If you're a fan of Stranger Things and you want to help me out with the YouTube algorithm, please make sure that you Hulk smash the like button, share this video with a friend, put this video on any one of your social media platforms. Don't forget to sound off in the comment section about what your thoughts are on this episode of Stranger Things. What would you rate the premiere episode of Stranger Things or the pilot episode? And who would you choose as your standout character of the episode? And then last but certainly not least, don't forget to hit that sub button. Subscribe to the channel. You're watching the video anyway. Help me get over 100,000 subscribers. Join the team, share your damn support, and be a part of something special. And you never know what you're going to see on JDev TV.